I acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Papua people. And roll into the meeting. Straight on down to adopt agenda.
Second.
On favor. And to bylaw. Code of conduct bylaw.
For discussion.
All right. Miss Downey, the floor is yours.
I thought it was an excellent document.
Oh, adjourn.
I thought, well, I did, I thought. Okay, yeah. I'm in favor of it as presented. Thank you. Yeah.
I just have two questions. Under the breaches, complaint handling and disciplinary action. Page 11, section 10. That process applies to anything within the document. It's not just for gifts and personal benefits. It's the whole, yeah, okay. And provide a written confidential report. Are we gonna have a format or are we gonna allow it to be free flowing so that whatever the instance is, like, will there be a certain amount of criteria that kind of applies to anything? Or will it be allowed to be a free flowing report depending on what happens? Or is that something that may come as it?
Maybe that's for discussion with council, how you like it. Probably having some structure to it would pick up the points that are needed to bring brought forward reports. So it's,
And I wasn't sure if that was like a staff thing that goes off to the side.
it could be an appendix. Yeah, yeah, we could prepare an appendix, kind of to pull out the key points that you need for if there was some sort of
Breach of any of it. Otherwise, I think it's great.
Question. And I don't know how you would do it, whether it's admitted or not. But there's nothing there pertaining to previous councils. So when there's a change of council, there's nothing in here about being protective of in-camera discussions.
Actually, I thought I saw something about that. It's just.
But that's under our oath of
Is anything else?
the community charter, and your oath, once you take it, you're stuck with it, aren't
That's
you?
the binding, that's what you
I
need.
thought so.
We could add it to this just as another point. In our own, you know, that you're bound by the code of conduct.
Oh, you mean like, so when we aren't here anymore, we're still bound by this code of
Yeah.
conduct?
Yeah.
In addition to the bullying harassment, in addition to our oath that covers off the in-camera and institutional knowledge?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I didn't see anything, no legacy commitment in it. Where probably we're all bound by a legacy commitment, and certainly that code oath might suffice. But also my other question was, where did it come from? Is this the generic community?
There's the core foundational principles, which are the accountability, respect, integrity, and leadership and collaboration. And I've seen that, that's where it's money to.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, yes.
Are we looking to recommend it for the next meeting? Is that?
I can take your suggestion for the appendix, for the report form, and add a legacy commitment to the code of conduct, and then bring it back to the next, meeting for.
Okay.
Yeah.
and I think Leanne has seen a fair amount of these in her board, so I know she's gonna be late today, but maybe just run that by her, and if she did have anything additional, we could capture that.
Moving on down to old business then. Skate park. Sir. I read in the paper.
Yeah.
Thoughts on skate park? I'll start off then. I was thinking to give them a little wind under their wings, that we fund Matt to join with them and create a grant. Something along the way of our discretionary money. What do you call it? Grant and aid, thank you. What would happen if we were to,
So like if they found a grant that they wanted to apply for, we would fund the support to write the grant, is what you're thinking?
or we fund that fellow who writes the grants
The
on
grant
their
writing.
behalf to seek them out to the tune, I'm just throwing a number out there, $5,000 or something, that he then works with them and they pursue the money in this. In hopes that it comes back with more than the $5,000 outlay.
Outlay.
Not committing to set plan or anything,
Mhm.
not committing to a location. Such, just to keep the ball rolling in their general direction.
Help get them some seed money.
Such, yeah,
I like that.
unless you hate children, in which case you can object.
There are the small community grants, $500 that are out there, that are being distributed, and that's certainly criteria you have to be providing a program or offering something that's free and accessible to all. And trying to think about criteria whether grant writing is part of that, but that's something that they can access. So this is 30th, I think it's $500, but it's $500 to do something. And it's money that's already allocated specifically for stuff like that. So that's something that they point them in the direction to seek that out if they haven't already. The regional district also has their $2,500 for parks. Probably is a case to be made for seeking that out. I'm just trying to think of people have already, there's already organized agencies out there that have money for exactly this Parks and Rec. So before we take from our coffers, why would we maybe point them in those directions to extract that first? And then see where they land. And then we come in as the funder of last resort or the assistance after. We're probably more familiar with the RD one. But, so I mean, that's $3,000 right there.
Yeah, we could talk to Pat English about the RD, maybe put them together. I just want to see them get started, and I don't think they'll attract the attention of a grant writer with $500.
Some of the grant writers, they take a percentage of the grant.
Yeah, I think that's some success with the Matt character. I just don't want to leave them hanging. So, see, and not have to put in writing their own grants. Momentum out of their efforts.
Grant. There. My thought is that I don't want those volunteers to lose steam by any shot of the imagination. But I don't feel like we have kind of, I don't want to see happening, right? Like, even with the dog park, I don't have an issue with the dog park. We've said we're gonna fence it. Is that where the dog park's gonna live for the rest of its life? Is that where it's gonna live for the next 10 years? Are we gonna fence it with the idea that it's gonna take us 3 years to actually look at all the different locations that we have parks in town and maybe decide that the dog park doesn't belong down there, it actually belongs in a different spot because we're gonna pull out a playground that's dead and dying and replace it with a dog park, whereas there might be another spot for a child's playground or a adult playground. Same with the skateboard park, like it's a great idea, but look at, dare to say beach volleyball, look at how much interaction, outdoor volleyball. Look how much feedback there was that wasn't negative about So how do we know where, the skateboard park is going to take a fair amount of planning, it's gonna take a fair amount of money. How do we know what the priorities are yet? And that was something I was really hoping would kind of come from the Parks and Rec, was kind of, we have park A, B, C, D, E. And, E really, it's done, its life is gone, but because of the way that neighborhood's changed, that's not the best place to have a child's playground. We actually think that because now that neighborhood's got a lot of adults in it, maybe that would be a good spot to put a adult orientated park equipment. Have you seen an adult exercise park? Nanaimo has them. There's a few of them, but it's like almost like the walking thing.
Dennis Beach should be,
Yeah.
the same thing.
So, and I know that there are people in this town who feel very strongly that the kids are well looked after. We need to start looking after that, healthy retiree, young retiree, if you want to call it that way. They need a spot to be able to go and get a bit of incline or, whatever. So my hope was kind of that, Parks and Rec would kind of say, hey, you've got 6 children's playgrounds. This is the order we think they should be replaced in. This is kind of what we're suggesting when you look at the whole area. And maybe one of those playgrounds may not be a playground again. Maybe it would be a park with some natural, wood steps, maybe the logs, or I don't know, but maybe it would be more of a park idea than a playground idea. And it just seems like until we kind of have those recommendations, and we're making decisions in isolation, I guess, and I'm talking way too much, but that's the way that my head is kind of thinking about it. Does that make sense? No.
I would just add to that, the Parks and Rec Committee was formed in the prior council, and part of the basis for that is the recognition that we have many voices who are looking for something, whether it's a dog park, a skateboard park, a beachfront park, or an outdoor volleyball court, whatever it is. There's a lot of people who have great ideas. What we don't have in this community is a master plan. We don't have a vision for, in 10 years out, this would be here, this would be here, that would be there, that's kind of what we're looking for. Okay, what are the needs today? What are the needs in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And where are these things best situated? And that, I think, comes before throwing up fences and laying down concrete for a skateboard park. And it doesn't have to be onerous or a lengthy duration to come up with that plan, but it really is bringing all the people into one room and having a conversation, and somebody with a map and a marker saying, okay, what makes sense? And we don't have that. That is what prior council was hoping with the Parks and Rec would be project 1. And then from there would be drilling down into, okay, if it's a skateboard and it's going here, then we pursue that. If it's this and it's going over here, then we pursue that. So I think that's why, for me to talk about skate park and dog park are still a bit early. I think I probably will go to the next Parks and Rec committee just to see where they're at, because there are the vision, I guess, maybe that council had when they established it is different than the vision of the members around the table, and not that one's right or wrong. It's just different.
So I see Parks and Rec was put into place for a reason, but then these people came together that want the skate park. It's very specific what they want.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any harm in the town where everybody's paying into the taxes. If you're seeing how many people do think we need a skate park, I don't think it hurts for us. We're not offering a huge amount of money at this point because they are early stages, but to help them get a grant, to get money that doesn't come out of our funding at this point, I don't think that hurts. And what I recently heard was there's even speak of them possibly being able to put in a skate park style in the arena that can be removed?
They don't want to do that.
They don't? Okay, because that's what someone on the committee mentioned to me, and I thought it would be a great start. Because you'd speak with the arena people and, you know, there's not ice in there for how many months. You try it out, it's a cheaper expense. And it's fully removable. I guess some of them, the weight of it itself is so heavy that you don't have to bolt it down. It's just there and then can be pulled out. But I definitely think helping in some way, you know, to offer them the grant rate or it's something, it's really hard to do anything when you have nothing, right? And nobody knows where we want to put this skate park or if it is there, but if they get grant money to go forward, then that kind of puts it in the next stage. And I completely agree with you on an adult theme, like that's great. We've got Parks and Rec and then we've got the skate park. Should they just be one or else we have to look at it as two? Skate park people want a skate park, Parks and Rec does something else.
Again, it's that idea of a master plan and where does the skate park fit into it? Like, I don't even know from a staff's perspective, what is the process to putting in a skateboard park? What are our liabilities? What are, like, there's information on this side that we kind of need, and I'm not saying to stop one or the other, and I think in theory or in vision, what you're saying is, it makes sense. I think that's a great way, because then they still get to have their process and pursue it. But ultimately, we're the ones that are elected to decide the vision and the policy and what is the first step? And I understand that there's some urgency, that something needs to be done and needs to be done right away, and that's the way people see it. But I don't want to do something and then find out that we've now just put the town at a major risk or liability because some of those steps weren't taken in the meantime to make those decisions.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to having, I think having a person, a resource person, actively looking to see what funding opportunities there are for skate park or whichever other type of park is available. I think there's no harm in that. There's good from that. So that's not an issue. It's where's the plan? Where's the master plan? And where is it best placed? But the liability is a really serious one to consider, and then, you know, maintenance and the rest of that.
So one thing that I had kind of suggested was them talking to other municipalities to see what that looks like, right? Like, how does Cumberland do it? For instance, they have a skateboard park and a larger park kind of system. What is their liability? Same with in Nanaimo, I believe there's a skate park.
Courtney has one right
Courtney
beside
has one. So what are the liabilities? How does the municipality kind of,
Mitigate them all.
yeah, or navigate around that? What does that look like? I think there's still a lot of questions in this planning stage before we jump in and throw money at a project that we don't really know what it's going to look like yet. I think when I talked to them at Parks and Rec, the one thing that they had asked is if we could look at a couple locations for them. Where would this go? And would the ground at the Syncap, where we had kind of talked about behind or across the street from the high school, is that even a viable spot for it, for the ground kind of structure there to be able to dig in? How much fill would be required and the water drainage, that sort of thing. So,
And then that again falls back into that. You've got Robinson Park, you've got the park on Molson, behind the trailers there. What other? Shellerson?
I think it's Shellerson.
Camosun.
Camosun.
Yeah, Camosun Loop. And then we've got the old school playground down there. Like, we've got all of these.
I don't think the old school has a playground in there anymore, just, it's.
Don't we saw the slides behind the ball park?
The ballpark.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm calling it. Sorry. at the ballpark, we've got that park and then what other land do we have in town that's designated as parks? Is there one of those that should be retired and something else built somewhere else? And then I think that's where you start to factor in, you can't just look at the skateboard park
No,
in this place or this place, when you've got all of these places.
and I do know that one thing with skateboard park is they really emphasize that it be visible, so
Yeah.
that it cuts down on any kind of late night negative activity, right? So,
Which is a risk we would be mitigating.
Yeah.
Does
but I
allow
think
access-
any park is kind of like that too, not necessarily skateboard park, they just kind of get a bad rap for.
Anywhere people can gather,
Exactly.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
lately the town of Port Vale's been freeloading off of High Creek, I must say.
Yes,
That's the best utilized park.
yes. That was what seaweed,
Yeah. Nice to see High Creek so well
yeah.
utilized every dry day.
So nobody wants to say yes to the,
Well, it's a committee of the whole, all we can do is make recommendations, and I think that the committee of the whole, we're supposed to have a free flowing discussion, that's definitely what we're doing. We do have that new funding that came through from the government. I think a while ago, we purposely didn't put it into our budget, but we have that. I think that's our next step, is to sort of start thinking, and just from a global perspective, would we consider some of that money going into an actual park plan where we actually call it parks and recreation, but we actually dedicate some money and, maybe just include a couple other things that.
So have we
There as
talked
well.
about doing some actual strategic planning, like, we talked about that, or are we looking at doing that? So,
Yeah, talking to consultants, so
okay,
to need to talk to you.
okay. Yeah, to be able to just kind of really solidify some of our visions, right? So we kind of did this informal kind of thing at the beginning, but like really narrowing down what we see going forward and doing a plan, so we don't have bits and pieces all over the
Mhm.
place.
yeah. The skate park, when I heard about the arena idea, I at first was like, well, why would you do that? Like, I'm pulling in and out all the time. But the amount of rain that we get is a lot, which would affect playing on that skate park. And then if you put it down toward the ocean, anywhere down there, you're gonna have the algae and, and then corrosion, right? So it is tough to
So,
decide where. it's not
Josh
just
had
a-
basically, because he's a skateboarder, he's
Yeah.
on the Parks and Rec committee, he basically said that the users keep it pretty tidy, like the user groups will be responsible for doing that. And he said he's gone all over the place and they're generally in pretty good shape because the users, like the skateboard committee and the
Yeah.
users of the skateboard would keep up and clean it and that sort of thing. I don't know if that necessarily would be too much of an issue. I know for the drive floor that they weren't interested really in doing that. And I think it's because of access, right? It would be free and open access. It would be when the arena is open and
100%,
when
yeah.
there's somebody.
The arena now covers all the summer activities. So Hardy can completely close and not put their summer ice back in.
Yeah.
Orland Mills Regional District Rink has been sort of selected as the one, the ice is only out, I believe, 2 months.
Yeah.
That's sort of May and June.
Yeah, that's what I,
Hardy is having summer ice this year though, because I saw a advertisement for like hockey school camp thing in August, so or July, somewhere. Yeah.
That's great, because
Yeah.
it saves them a lot of money.
Yeah, I was surprised because they don't traditionally have that, so maybe it's just dry floor like conditioning, but
Yeah,
there was an advertisement out for that, so,
yeah, I think Hardy actually contributes
yeah.
to.
And then we have
Orland
the-
Mills to stay open to save
month
them
of-
money.
um,
Would the first fall fair kind of been for Hardy then? As a more regular thing, can we continue sunrise into fall?
But that's a much better use of.
Yeah.
why run two places at half capacity?
Yeah, so duty escape is definitely limited
Yeah,
by that short, like I said.
yeah.
There's a gym or something that could try it in, but right, access at 10 o'clock on Saturday night.
To go back to what Counselor Downey said, I think this group, and Minnie Leanne said it a couple times, this group rate, keep doing go to the other municipalities, find out how they got it done, get some ideas of what it's gonna take to put it in and to maintain it and make it accessible, so that if we decide to, we'll run our process simultaneously. And if a skateboard park is the first thing on our gamut and we're gonna do it, then we know how many humps and bumps and square footage and all of that stuff that needs to go with it. And as they're doing their checking out, I would totally encourage them that if they find a grant or staff does, or somebody puts one forward, then I think we could totally revisit that to help them out with some funding to put a good solid effort in, because
I know they are looking to start fundraising a little bit, and they have talked to community services about kind of going under their umbrella so that they can write grants.
So they need to keep.
So I think that there is a little bit more of a process for them to go as a committee before we, I think that we definitely want to support that, but what that looks like, I think we still need a bit more information. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Enough chit chat about that then. Let's fence in the dog park before the sclerotic bureaucracy
Let's do it.
shuts us down.
Did you guys get a chance to go down there with Leanne's dog? No.
We've already
We've already voted to.
We already
put it
have
up.
a motion to
Yeah.
fence. On page 19 of the document, it says,
Yeah.
Parks and Rec Committee recommend that council moves forward without delay with having a fully fenced dog park by the end of 2024. We did pass a motion to state that we would fence in a dog park. So.
Yep. We just have to determine
So we need,
what that looks like.
do we need staff to come back and give us any risks of fencing in that dog park that's down there? Is that kind of where we're at then? I mean, we've already said we would put the money into doing it. Assuming we have a number attached to it. I think it's the location.
It was the location, so what plan did we want to look at?
But they gave us plans, but I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know from staff, I would assume is where it would come from. The risk or the liability or the benefit to any of these, they're already down there using it, I get that. But if we go and put a fence around it, is there any problem with that? Is there any extra work that needs to be done? Or do trees have to be taken down? Does the ditch, creek, river, does that have any play into any of this? Like, I think that's what we need.
If you have preferred, I have a preferred location, you can make it preferred instead of looking at all options, unless you like the split.
Well, at this point, without a master plan, you're kind of looking at just fencing in what's down there.
Well, because you can fence in like appendix 1 is still plenty big. I was down in Victoria and I was counting, because they had a big dog park there. And, because originally I think I liked 2 or 4, and then I was counting the fence down there, I'm like, okay, that one would be way too big for our town. So like, even appendix 1, I think is pretty large, because I was thinking when people throw at first, right, I was like, you throw the ball at your dog, like you need a lot of space. I think this one's plenty large, but, I think that's just staff probably needs some direction on, it's like, do you want it to be 200 feet long? Or do we just need an 80-foot fence right there? Cause you can go right on the side of the community hall, park your vehicle, come right there, and you're out of the way. The playground can stay as is for now until Parks and Rec decide what we're doing with that, as long as there's still access for them to be able to remove that or upgrade it.
That little, yeah, that appendix 1 would be where the old swimming pool
Yeah,
is basically.
Yeah.
Right? And taking the next one, trees that are there, which would give them a little bit of shade.
I think it's a happy medium, just that's,
Leave the geese to the grass, so.
yeah,
So
How often is Robinson Park used these days?
It's used, but the equipment's tired.
There's nowhere for adults to sit there, is what I'm told. So when your kids play, you don't have a picnic table like we have in that creek. So that's one impediment to balanced.
Like, stuff, yeah.
if that equipment was taken out, is that a good spot for a dog park?
Don't start reinventing stuff there, Baron.
For
I
me,
think it's, I'm just, here's the question, I mean, that park is fairly, I mean, it is, its footprint is what it is, the equipment is all up here. The lower half is never used. Is it more, would it be more efficient, put a fence, divide it in half, dogs here, kids here, everybody's together, throw in a picnic table?
My only
it's all
concern with
contained.
that is it's residential and dogs bark. So, you know, when you have a dog that's excited for getting the ball thrown or whatever, they're barking, is that gonna be, there's 6 dogs in that dog park barking, is that gonna be a problem for the residents that live in that area? Where down at the community hall, you don't have the neighbors there.
Fully agreed. So
That would just be.
The
Yeah,
dog
but
park, I did town park.
mine does.
dogs get excited.
Dogs get excited and they bark, and when they're with other dogs, right? I just don't know if noise would be an issue. Right, for the people that are living in that general vicinity.
traffic is valid.
Right.
I'm asking the question because you said that dog feces is an issue in the park.
It
I'm
is.
thinking,
Well,
you
people
know,
take their
there's.
dogs there anyways, yeah,
Exactly.
people take their
Here's your
dogs
dog,
there
here's your
anyways.
kids, never the twain shall meet, and you don't worry about
Yeah.
your kid stepping in something.
well, and
So-
if you were trying to exercise your kid and your dog at the same time, that would be a good spot to be able to do both. It's just something to be,
Area.
it's just something to be considered. It's not like you'd be going and, like on Quatsino, there's an empty lot. It's not like we'd go buy that lot and then suddenly put a dog park or a kids park in there. Those people have lived there for years and they didn't buy thinking that that lot was gonna be converted into a park. Where Robinson Park is, it is a park. It's been a park as long as I can remember. You know. And then again, on the other hand, should Robinson Park be pulled out and it made into 2 residential lots? Is that a spot where, as you said, the equipment's tired, so if that equipment gets retired, should that be a park again, or should that be 2 residential lots?
This space downtown is already designated park, dog park, right? It's just not needs a fence.
Utilized.
It's
It's utilized.
Yeah, so can we? If we stick with this, we don't have to do much of anything. The fence gets put in, if in 10 years it needs to be moved, that's
It's a
just
fence,
posts, right? That's,
right.
you just
Yeah,
break the concrete and move it.
And all I'm saying is that if we're doing that right now, just everybody around the table is comfortable with the idea that if we decide in our strategic planning that we are gonna worry about parks and rec, and that's gonna be our focus for the next 4 years, 10 years, that we may change that. So as long as everybody's comfortable with putting that amount of money in, with the idea that
fencing can be reused.
Yeah.
It could be
Especially-
reused.
And this spot, I don't see how we would ever, like, if we went with appendix 1, which is to the side, I don't think it would ever conflict with a different idea, because the playground, the placement of the current playground is good. We're not imposing on that. The dog park is gonna be over to the side. It doesn't go into the creek. if that ever got developed, it's still on a big slope, so they would probably put in a privacy something above it anyways.
I would recommend that we go with appendix one.
So you're recommending that staff comes back to us with any
Yes,
concerns around appendix one?
appendix one,
That's the friendly amendment.
yes. I would recommend that we go with appendix one and have staff go and look at it, see if there's any issues and bring it back if it can't be done. Can be done, go with option one. That's my recommendation.
Like your recommendation,
Get this off the table.
friendly, like.
Okay. Do we vote on such recommendations?
No.
Okay. Who's all in favor of recommendation of Leanne's? To build this swing?
It's not that I don't agree with it. I just want to make sure that we're not gonna go and fence this and then say, okay, the dog park's taken care of. Because I think that there are,
We're gonna go fence this and then say the dog park.
Take care of it.
Sure. We're going to never discuss the
But I-
dog park.
well, then
By June.
then I have to vote against it because I don't know that in the grand scheme of things is the best place. It may, I hope we're gonna go through a process to look at all of that, and it may end up that that's where it is, but heaven forbid, what if we came up with some land for a ballpark and we took the ballpark out of downtown? Richard, don't kill me. It's just a pie in the sky thought.
But it's a fence, we could move it.
Yeah.
We could,
That's all.
we could move it. A chain link fence
That's
is not difficult to move.
And that's like you saying, what if we took the ballpark, that is completely fenced, so you, if you were wanting to pursue that, all that fence has gotta go too, so what are we, would we throw it in the garbage or would we reuse it, right, we would probably try to reuse it, I would hope, yeah, so it's same thing for the fence, same thing.
I appreciate your worries about future, but I kind of hearken a little bit to October 15th. We all got put here for things we publicly said, or the way we conduct ourselves. I don't have any hesitation that ideas that will come from this group are solid with the right vision for the town. I don't need to be told what they are worried about, what's going to come our way in the future. Things will evolve, but we're 6 months into this. And I feel completely supported in the community and valid that we five with staff have the best interest of the town in mind. We will soldier on and screw up and blame me. I don't care.
Oh, I second that.
All right.
Shelby, you had something to add?
I guess because there's still some other things at play, I would have been happy to wait another 30 days before saying we're gonna do this and where we're doing it. I just,
But in the meantime, we're just asking for staff to come back
yeah.
Yes.
and tell us if there's
Yeah.
any concerns.
We're recommending we go with option one if there's, staff comes
It's
back
suitable.
and it's suitable.
Absolutely. Okay.
Will staff report back before my final decision is made?
Yes,
Like,
because
will
don't we have
council
to vote on it at
final
a
decision?
sessional meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, because that
Do
was
we
just a
not?
recommendation.
Yeah.
Well, we
still
just
have to-
recommended that you bring some, staff bring us a report.
Yeah.
So that's what,
Yes, thank you.
so that's what we're recommending.
We will not leap forward.
Without due diligence.
And we need to have something fenced, and that's
Yeah.
why we all supported that. We agreed, we need a fenced area for dogs in our community, for residents and visitors, and we're all on the same page.
Oh, I don't agree. I think they should all go to the damn tennis court. Nice fence.
Put them in a little square.
There you go, though. That just totally goes against, there's your parking. There's a residential area that doesn't even get the noise of kids, right? Robinson Park, you get the noise of kids,
Yeah.
so. And
All right, do we have any other items to cover off? Okay, then we'll need to adjourn, or recommend to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. All right, Carson, thank you for your motion. Adjourn. Okay. All in favor of adjournment? All right.
Eric has his hand up.
Oh, now, questions from Mr. Cole?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is, during the meeting here, somebody made a comment that they passed a motion that we will fence in the dog park. I just don't recall hearing that motion. Is that maybe a motion made during the, just to approve the budget? Is that what I'm?
The motion in a prior, no, that was a motion in a prior meeting.
Okay, was it part of the budget process or? Or one of the closed meetings, I guess?
No, it's an open meeting. It's a motion in an open council meeting where that motion was.
Okay, I'll dig through the minutes and find it. Thank you. That's all I have.
That's too easy.
Thank you.
Okay. That'll be around.
How close are we to getting that western?
Make sure she's not recording. Recording.
Okay, you can spread that part.